the head of a prominent family was retiring after a long and distinguished career in publishing, and his family was wondering what they could give him as a gift. So after much discussion, they decided that they would present him with a family history, which was something that he was always interested in. So they employed a well-known biographer to do the research and write the story. And he proceeded to interview the different members of the family and to look at old records and to read letters. And he started to put together all the information that he was going to use to write this story. Now, the daughter of the family, she who had the idea in the first place, she was a little concerned. And so she went to the biographer and she expressed her concern and she said, "It's my great uncle George. He's the black sheep in the family, and no one ever talks about him because he died in the electric chair after he was accused of murder. But if you're going to write an accurate history, you can't cut him out. But maybe you could minimize the embarrassment." Well, the biographer assured the young woman that he would be able to handle Uncle George and still write an accurate history of the family. So when the book was finally printed, she was relieved to read, Uncle George occupied a chair of applied electronics in a famous government institution. He was attached to a position by the strongest ties, and his death came as a real shock. Writing family history can present problems for all of us, and creative writing might appear as an appealing option when it comes to certain names in the family. Now, what's interesting when we look at Matthew and his writing of the Gospels, he has no interest whatsoever in giving us any biographical details about the apostles. And believe it or not, the other evangelists are the same. The 12 apostles, who are the first members of the Christian family, they appear in the gospel as little more than just a list of names. Apart from Judas, the only 4 that stand out among the 12 are the 2 sets of brothers, Peter and Andrew, and James and John. And Peter is the only member of the 12 of whom we have any significant knowledge whatsoever. Because the apostles were chosen to be witnesses of Jesus. Their experience of Jesus, who walked the road of Palestine, was unique in the history of the church. But they were important as apostles in the measure that they were able to point others to the person of Jesus. So the church moves on in its life of faith. And believe it or not, each community gives birth to its own apostles. The apostles of every age, it doesn't matter when, must be just as self-effacing as the apostles of the first age. They must point others to the living God. We are all called to holiness. We are called to follow Jesus. We are all called to make Jesus known to all peoples. And we cannot spend our time in nostalgia. We can't just look back to the days when Jesus walked the roads of Palestine with the 12. We're called to minister in our own time. Take responsibility for our own ministries. And it's a matter for all of us. I love what Blessed John Henry Newman once wrote. He said, "He called us first in baptism, but afterwards also." So the call continues. Whether we obey his voice or not, he graciously calls us still. Abraham was called from his home. Peter was called from his nets. Matthew from his office. Elisha from his farm. Nathaniel from his retreat. We are all in the process of being called again and again, on and on, from one thing to another. My point is The call takes us on and on, not back and back. It is a call to the future. Now, that doesn't mean we can't look back at our own Christian family history, and certainly we will come across a legion of Uncle Georges. But it is important to realize that we are a pilgrim people who are called always to move forward, and our primary mission is to point others to Jesus.